So today I thought it'd be fun if I just go back and revisit the Sonic series, because I've been with the Sonic series ever since I was a little kid, and I thought it'd be pretty interesting if I look at my thoughts for when I was younger and then compare to my overall thoughts with the Sonic series now, because there's definitely a lot to talk about when it comes down to that, because obviously I had a different mindset back then. So it's going to be very interesting to compare my overall experience compared to now. So I'm honestly super excited to get into this video because this is different and I've never really done anything like this on the channel before. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. So if you guys have any overall thoughts when it comes to the Sonic series, or if you guys want to give your perspective of when you were a kid and where you are now with the Sonic series, be sure to let me know all your thoughts, as always, in the comment section down below. So I want to start off with how I got into the Sonic series, because that's pretty much where everything begins when it comes to my whole journey with Sonic. And then from there, we can go where I currently am now as an adult. So when it comes to when I first found out about the Sonic series, I honestly think I just knew what Sonic was off the bat, because it's almost like with Mario at this point. You know who Mario is as soon as you hear the name. It's the exact same thing with Sonic. You know who Sonic is as soon as you hear the name. So I already knew who Sonic was off the bat just because of that. And I think the console that I was playing around the time when I was getting into Sonic was probably like my Game Boy and my DS, my 3DS, and my Nintendo Wii. Like those consoles right there is when I really started playing a lot of these different kinds of Sonic games. And I think it was my friend Jeremy from middle school, which thankfully I'm still friends with, because sometimes when you go to school, you end up losing track with some of those friends that you grew up with. But thankfully I'm still friends with him and I get to talk to him every day, which is really nice. But it was probably him that really pushed me into getting into Sonic a lot more, because when I met him, he was a huge Sonic fan. He still is, and his favorite character was Tails. And he told me about all these different kinds of Sonic games to play. And the first Sonic game that I played, because it was the one that I had access to, was probably Sonic and the Black Knight. Like that was the first Sonic game that I've ever played. And that was like a more modern Sonic game. So I didn't really have the opportunity to play the 2D Sonic games until I was finished playing this one. And this game was pretty fun. I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, obviously I thought it was going to be very fun just playing through the game and getting through the level. So I didn't really think about it too much. But of course, when I was playing through the classic 2D Sonic games, that's what really got me invested in the overall franchise. And I'm very thankful for that. So Jeremy, if you happen to stumble across this video, thank you for getting me deep into Sonic by playing those games. You had a lot of good recommendations, so I really do appreciate that. And like my overall impressions of the games is pretty much, if it wasn't for games like Mario and Sonic, I would have never gotten into platforming games. And I absolutely love platforming games. Like if you look at my game catalog when it comes to a lot of the games that I play, a lot of them are platforming games because of Sonic and Mario. So I do appreciate the Sonic series, just like Mario, for getting me into platforming games overall, because they're very fun and they're very addicting. And once I get my hand on the controller, or however I'm playing the game, and I start going through those sort of games, I just can't put the controller down because they're just very fun. And obviously when I was playing through a lot of these Sonic games as a kid, I had a lot of memorable experiences, especially when it comes to the 2D Sonic games, because of the different zones that you were traveling through when it came to those games. Like if I'm talking about the very first Sonic game, when it came to the levels that I was exploring at that game, like the Green Hill Zone, Marble Zone, Spring Yard Zone, Labyrinth Zone, Starlight Zone, Scrap Brain Zone, and then of course the final zone, I have a lot of memorable experiences going through each of those levels, because I remember when I started off in Green Hill Zone, you know, that was the Sonic level where it pretty much introduced you to the whole world of Sonic. And obviously they started you off fresh, where it's like, okay, I can go through this level, it's easy for me to understand. But then as you're progressing further into the game, obviously things are going to be a lot different. Things are going to be thrown at you, or they're going to be a lot more challenging, so it's not always like a walk in the park when you're going through each of these levels. Like, you actually have to think and strategize as you're going through each of these different levels in these Sonic games, and that's something that I definitely remember as a kid. I mean, that's definitely like one of the challenges I faced when I was going through each of these different levels in Sonic, was the kind of things I had to think about as I was playing through that level. Where it's like, okay, I got to think of a strategy of how I'm going to progress throughout that level. Like, I can't just run through everything and then beat the level like that. Like, I obviously have to think of a game plan as I'm going through that level. And I also had other characters from the Sonic franchise that I happen to be fans as well. Like, obviously I love Sonic, but there was other characters that stood out to me as well that I also became a fan of. Like, when it came to characters like Tails, I was a big fan of Tails, mainly because of Jeremy, because he just told me all these different kinds of things about Tails, and I just became a really big fan of Tails. And I also thought Knuckles was pretty cool. I also loved Shadow. I mean, it's hard not to love Shadow. He's like one of the most badass characters I've ever seen in any video games. I also liked Amy as well. I thought she was very funny, especially with her relationship with Sonic. I always found it amusing, especially when I was watching Sonic X when I was younger. And I also really like Big the Cat. Big the Cat was always funny to me. I also liked Cream. I also really liked Dr. Robotnik, or if you want to call him Dr. Eggman. He was also a very interesting character overall. He was a very amusing antagonist, and I absolutely loved fighting him every chance I got in each of these Sonic games. So there's definitely a lot of characters from Sonic that I definitely love. And also when it comes to like the Sonic series overall, like how it had like any sort of impact on anything that happened in my childhood when it came to friends I made in school. I mean, like I mentioned earlier with my friend Jeremy, that was one of the many reasons why me and Jeremy had like a lot of things to talk about because of the Sonic series, and how he always used to talk about Tails every single time. So Sonic definitely was the very reason why me and Jeremy became friends, and also we just have other things in common as well. But Sonic was definitely one of the franchises that we talked about the most every single time we came across each other at school. And I don't really know if I collected like that much merchandise of Sonic when I was younger, because I do know now, like when it comes to a lot of things that I'm like very passionate about, I tend to collect a lot of merchandise for it, which you guys will see in like a future video whenever I do a room tour showcasing all the things I have in my room. But I do know for sure, like whenever I'm like really passionate about something, I always have like some sort of like poster hanging in my wall or a figurine just showing that, oh yeah, you know, I really love this series, so I had to buy this to have it in my room. But I don't really know if I have like any Sonic related merchandise in my room. Like, I think the closest thing you could really see is the Super Smash Bros poster, where I have like all of the characters that were in Super Smash Bros Ultimate, and Sonic is obviously from that game, so he's on there. But other than that, I don't really have that many Sonic memorabilia in my room, which honestly brings me to our next topic. Like, where am I currently now with the Sonic series? Because all the things that we talked about before was my childhood when it came to all the different kinds of experiences that I had with Sonic then. So now let's just talk about, okay, where are my current thoughts on the Sonic series overall? So I know for sure I haven't played any of the recent Sonic games, so that's definitely a big change compared to how I was when I was younger. Because when I was younger, like I mentioned before, you know, I was really into Sonic. I used to play Sonic every single time, but I don't really play Sonic as much now. I mean, the only recent thing when it comes to Sonic games that I've done was get Sonic Mania on Steam, because I just heard so many good things about it and I eventually wanted to play that game. But like, other than that, I haven't really touched any of the recent Sonic games. So that definitely shows that things have changed compared to how they were back then when I was a lot younger, when I was getting into Sonic for the very first time. I still have a soft spot for Sonic, obviously, because it's like one of the first few gaming franchises that I ever touched when I first started playing video games for the first time. So obviously I'm always going to have a soft spot for the series, where I could be like, okay, if you want to know my whole story when it comes to Sonic, I could tell you right there, just like how I am in this video. But it definitely goes to show that, like, as you're getting older, things change and you don't always keep up with the things that you used to do when you were younger, which is understandable because sometimes you just grow out of things or just don't really keep up with it as much anymore. But I still have a soft spot for Sonic, like I said, so that's something that's never going to change. And I would say that the Sonic series like still had like an impact on my life because it's one of the many reasons why I'm so invested in a lot of platforming games. I mean, if it wasn't for series like Mario and Sonic, I would have never begun that journey and just played through these different kinds of platforming games. Because if you want to know like what my favorite kind of games are, they are platformers. I just have a lot of fun playing those. So Sonic definitely had an impact on my life when it came to the kind of games that I was really drawn towards. And if anybody were to ask me if I would recommend Sonic to them, I mean, I would. I mean, especially if somebody was coming to me for the first time where they were like, oh, hey, you know, I really want to get into video games. I've always heard like so many good things about them, but I never really had the opportunity because there's other things that I'm focusing on. Like, do you have like any recommendations of like series I should get into for the very first time to begin my journey into the world of gaming? And probably the two series that I would recommend is Mario and Sonic, because those two series right there are great starters to enter the gaming world when it comes to video games for the very first time. So I would definitely recommend Sonic because it's a very fun franchise. It's hard not to love it. There's just so many different things to say about it. It's very nostalgic to me, especially when it comes to how close I was as a kid with this franchise. And whenever I listen to a track from Sonic, I just really feel like I'm there at that very moment, just running through the Green Hill Zone or whatever Sonic game I'm in. I mean, Sonic is known just to have like great music, so I would always feel like I'm in that world of Sonic whenever I heard it. But I would definitely recommend Sonic to anybody if they ever wanted to get into that franchise for the very first time. But other than that, though, that's honestly all I have to say. Like, I just wanted to make this video, like I said earlier, just comparing like my whole thought process when it comes to how I was with Sonic as a kid and then looking at where I am currently now with Sonic. Like, you could definitely tell, especially after looking at both sides of then and now in this video, like how I feel about Sonic now. It's not like I have anything against Sonic. It just feels like I've fallen out of the loop with Sonic, and I'm gonna try to see if I could get back into Sonic again like I used to when I was a kid, because now that I'm thinking about it as I'm doing this video, it definitely feels like I did miss out a lot when it comes to a lot of these newer games. So I definitely want to give them a shot to see if I like them or not. But overall, I did have a lot of fun making this video because it's just really nice just to look at both sides to see how things evolved over time, especially growing up. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, if you guys have anything you want to say when it comes to the Sonic series, like your overall experience or just anything in general you want to say about Sonic, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, because I would absolutely love to hear it. And if you guys enjoy this video that you saw today, be sure to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to follow me on my social media and see what I'm doing outside of YouTube, be sure to check out my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, and my TikTok. All of that is located in the description below. Be sure to click on the bell for notifications so you guys are notified right away whenever I upload a video on the channel. But other than that, I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day, wherever the day may be, if it's the daytime, the nighttime, or the evening. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.